What if Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League wasn't a complete and utter failure? Obviously, this game had never ending issues until the end. Just the story, the gameplay, everything, all of it. And I guess that's kind of what I want to talk about today is some of the biggest issues and how I think I personally would fix them. If you have any disagreements or any other ideas that I don't bring up in the video, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Also, like, comment, subscribe, or whatever. I don't know. I already told you to comment. Jeez. So for starters, let's get the elephant out of the room. Either way, Kevin Conroy would have passed in the real world, so it would have been an excruciatingly unfortunate necessity to recast him as Batman, at least assuming that we're in this fantasy world where the game didn't completely suck and actually continued to receive post-launch content. Personally, I've been a Roger Craig Smith advocate since Arkham Shadow, and maybe even before, I don't remember. I think he'd be a fantastic choice to continue voicing Arkham Batman, not just in this fantasy reality, but even in the real world in any future Arkham titles. Hell, even in non-Arkham related stuff, but not DC Dark Legion, please just pull the plug on that game entirely, bro, and stop making Roger Craig Smith waste his time on that. I hope you guys paid him a fair bit of money for that or something, bro. He better be getting that bag. As for how they would solve something like this, I'm not entirely sure. I think when it comes to hearing Kevin Conroy's last performance as Arkham Batman and one of his last performances as Batman in general, I would want to hear most of the stuff that he had done for the game, right? But at one point they would have to start writing him out to add in Roger Craig Smith somehow, right? If I recall, something talked about around the time that the leaks were going around was that a Flashpoint type situation was going to occur and the timeline was going to reset. So maybe this could have been a way that they could have changed Batman from Kevin Conroy to Roger Craig Smith. Obviously, this never happened. They ended up bringing back Batman, except he never actually died. He was just a clone. This game sucked. This game sucked so bad. Jesus. I don't know. I could have done some multiverse shenanigans or some other time travel shenanigans to make it Roger Craig Smith instead of Kevin Conroy. I don't know. Frankly, I don't really care. I just know that it's something that would have needed to occur. And I think the best way to go about doing it would have been Roger Craig Smith because he's already been Arkham Batman and he kicked ass at the role and every time he's played it so far, except for DC Dark Legion, because I wouldn't know. I haven't played that game. Have you played that game? I'm sorry if you have. I think another massive problem that the game had was that the story was actually pretty interesting at the beginning. It's shockingly enticing and the concept was interesting, even for the DC universe it was brutally unrealistic, right? Like, for starters, Brainiac invades the world and he's got Metropolis held hostage, the entire city held hostage, and the Justice League just died, the core 5 members, right? So none of the other people in the Arkhamverse are going to show up. Like, obviously we know Tim showed up and like died, right? Like Bruce his clone just murdered him. I'm sorry, the League didn't die. They're now under mind control. You know what I mean? They lost to Brainiac. But there has to be other people that exist, right? We know Queen Industries exists thanks to the Arkham Origins trailer, and I believe there was some other Queen Industries stuff on Penguin's ship and some other places on some shipping containers. So we know Oliver Queen probably exists, or at least his family exists, right? So Green Arrow, right? He could have shown up and done some stuff. Superman exists. Supergirl probably exists somewhere. Since we're in the James Gunn era of DC, maybe Crypto is a thing. I don't know. I don't know why I'm throwing shade at James Gunn. Crypto was actually a shockingly good inclusion in the Superman movie. I kind of thought he was just another self-insert for him, like he's done with like half of his family members. I thought he was just doing it with his fucking dog, but it was good. Anyway, sorry, Superman, weird tangent. Like, literally anybody from the multiverse could show up, right? Like, we have access to the entire multiverse. Any Justice League from across the multiverse could show up, but no, it's the Suicide Squad. They have to kill Brainiac, and they do it. Like, a lot. And the funniest part is that they then are like, oh yeah, well, Arkham Slade is like so good now, like so good, because like, why not? That he just murdered Brainiac like 5 times on his own. Like, all right, you know what? I get that you use that as an excuse to cut content and not have to make as much, but like also that it's kind of a badass excuse. The game really was just like, yes, there are 13 Brainiacs across the multiverse you have to kill. God, that line is etched in my brain. Thank you, Lex Luthor. And then Deathstroke comes along. Slade is just like, no, actually, I took care of like 5 of them already, bro. We're chilling. Just like, was that the plan from the start, or was that just like the best excuse ever to not have to make 2.5 seasons? And they also murder his Justice League clones. They murder like what? Like, I get that they're clones, they're probably weaker. They never explain that. They never talk about it ever. Just saying, there's like zero depth to this game's story. If this was actually going to be the case for the game story, they would have had to go in so much more depth on what the fuck actually happened. Oh my god, maybe they would have hired actors outside of literally just Tara Strong in the ending cutscene. But yeah, I definitely could have seen it having some sort of Flashpoint-y, more multiverse focused storyline that was like, you know, actually interesting and not boring. Like, oh god, the game's whole use of the multiverse was so boring. It was like, here's Lawless and not Arkham Gotham, but kind of Arkham Gotham, and here's Deathstroke, but also medieval Metropolis. Like, what are we? Okay, all right, whatever. I definitely think there could have been more use of the multiverse, especially if we're recasting Batman as Roger Craig Smith. I think it could have been made way more obvious that the League was being resurrected at the end of the game's life cycle. Honestly, I think they should have been resurrected at the end of the base game. I don't think it should have been held on that long. I honestly, when the game first came out, was hoping that they were going to reveal that you get to play as the Justice League. Oh, I'm sorry, I bumped my mic. I was hoping they would say that we get to play as the Justice League at the end of the game after you rescue them, after you've beaten all the clones. I thought that would have been super cool. I think that would be something that I would include in my fantasy version of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, is that, I mean, Justice League is in the name, but just because you kill them doesn't mean you can't, like, you know, also play as them later, maybe? I don't know. Dude, I still can't believe they made us think that the Arkhamverse ended in the worst way possible for almost a year. It was almost a year. That was fucked up. That was really fucked up of them. They really, like, tried to pull an endgame out of their ass, except instead of giving us, like, 10 years of buildup to fighting Brainiac, he just kind of came out of nowhere and then murdered everybody. And instead of leaving it up to all the people that we love, you know, like the Justice League, to figure out how to bring all the people that Brainiac murdered back to life, we had to watch the Suicide Squad do it. Like, wouldn't Endgame have been so much better if, you know, the Thunderbolts were the ones that were trying to rescue everybody from the snap? Wouldn't that have been so much better? Wouldn't you have loved seeing Yelena when you didn't even know who she was because Black Widow hadn't come out yet? It's kind of like how the general audience probably felt looking at King Shark and Captain Boomerang. And every Arkham player trying to figure out if this was even in the Arkhamverse, thanks to Deadshot doing a complete 180 on his race. It's fine. Not to mention that nobody had any emotional attachment to anybody in this Justice League outside of Batman. So kind of sounds like nobody took notes from the DCEU, and we just are pretending that we can just rush in to Justice League stories and the characters will all have depth. Like, yeah, I love this interpretation of Wonder Woman voiced by someone I've never heard Wonder Woman get voiced by, who has like 2 scenes and then dies immediately. Like, I don't fucking care that she died. Like, you know why I cared when Tom Holland Spider-Man died? Because I watched a movie and like a half, 2, 3 movies. How many was he in before Infinity War? It was a fair few. And also he was a kid, and I mean, also he's, you know, I mean, I was going to say Spider-Man, but like that also would be true here. Like, you know, you'd think like watching Superman die would be like pretty fucked up, but also, I don't know, with Suicide Squad, we all kind of knew it wasn't real. I don't know if that's thanks to Endgame or if it's just because it's just, I don't know. It's such bullshit, right? Like, wow, they killed the Justice League. Like, we all knew that's not fucking happening. When it comes to gameplay, I think one of the biggest things that are necessary are more enemy types. The base game had a fair bit of variance between the enemy types and what you needed to do, although admittedly, I kind of started forgetting what I had to do against them halfway through the game. Some of them had armor that needed to be hit in a certain way, and some of them had things that needed to be grenaded, some of them needed to be countered, and by the time the last DLC came out, I didn't remember most of that stuff. I was just kind of shooting things and playing, I don't know, the game, just shooting things, really. I remember not being able to figure out why the yellow and Green Lantern ones would not break. Like, they're just people that would take 0 damage all the damn time, and it was so annoying. I even asked chat, they had no idea. I definitely think there needed to be some more varied and interesting enemy types. Take Helldivers, for instance, where there's so many different enemy types. There's so many different enemies at the same time on the map, and honestly, this isn't exactly relevant to enemy types, but I guess it kind of is. They could kind of go hand in hand. The game needs to be a lot harder. I'm pretty sure I played this game on like the hardest difficulty like the entire time, and it was rare that I actually had an instance where I was like, oh, I'm so scared I'm gonna lose. I think I lost one of the Brainiac boss fights once or twice. Maybe I'm capping. Proof of almost my entire playthrough and all the grinding of every DLC is available on my channel. Please don't go watch it. If you feel the need to waste your time, it's there. You can call me out. I could be wrong. I don't know. Either way, the game is incredibly easy in most instances, and that definitely should be changed in my dream reality. There's a difficulty selector for a reason. I think maybe they could have even taken a similar approach to how Helldivers does when you die, where you're completely replaced by a completely separate person, but they could have put a multiversal spin on it where you're replaced by maybe another universe's variant of the character you were playing as. So the Deathstroke you were is very similar, but you're not actually the same Deathstroke. I don't know. That would make the story a little bit weird, wouldn't it? And I definitely wouldn't want to see the Justice League members just die and respawn when that happens later in the game when you unlock them as playable. I don't know. It's just a thought. I also think we need just a completely different roster of DLC playable characters. I think the base game was fine. I think the base game characters had a lot of charm in them outside of... I think Deadshot was like, okay. I think he was definitely the least interesting of the OG4. But when it comes to the DLC characters, this is cringe. I'm sorry. I have to say this. I feel the need to say this. I don't know how else to describe it. They needed to be less woke. We didn't need the Joker to be a twink. And we don't need Mrs. Freeze to be Mrs. Freeze, you know? And even then, she's lesbian, which is like... I mean, okay, cool, but it's like we're just, I mean, I don't know. It feels like, I don't know, no substance, and feels lazy, and it almost feels like pandering. I think I'm using that word correctly. I don't know. I don't talk like this very often. I feel weird. It's like we have the whole multiverse at the tip of our fingers, and we have the whole Arkhamverse at the tip of our fingers, and the most creative thing we can do, we're not going to give you Mr. Freeze. So instead of doing any interesting twist on it, it's just he's a she now. It's so lame. It's so fucking lame. There are tons of other popular women villains throughout the DC history. Like, I mean, a massive one that was always brought up was Killer Frost. Like, why, like, what? I get it. It's like, oh my God, we need Batman villains to sell for the Batman game because it's in the Arkhamverse and because Batman is the most popular DC superhero in general. And it's like, oh, bro, but Killer Frost, we were right there, man. Like, nope, Mrs. Freeze. All right, that's fine. That's cool. I feel like the only person to ever still talk about this, I swear I'm not a racist, Deadshot being so weirdly retconned to being black is so cringe to me. I get it. Will Smith was Deadshot, and he's the only time that anyone in a movie has played Deadshot. I was gonna say live action, but he was in Arrow that one time. Maybe something else I might be forgetting. But it's like, dude, okay, Batman faced this dude at least twice that we know of. Other times in the comics, by the way, although we all know the Arkham comics are not canon in basically any shape or form. But over the course of like the 5 years that he's fought the guy at least twice, at least minimum twice, he did not figure out that he was from an alternate dimension. He just didn't look at the race of him or his daughter, which would be completely different, like on every documentation that ever existed, every picture that existed of Kid Him. How does it work? How does it fucking work? They don't talk about it in the game. It bugs the shit out of me. It's such bad writing. Like, it's just like, I get that they wanted to make him black because Will Smith was Deadshot. But it's like, bro, let's stop, man. Just don't put this game in the Arkhamverse. Why is this game in the Arkhamverse? Fuck me. I need to start yapping more about the reality where this game is good and not the reality where this game pisses me off. I swear I'm not a racist. This is where most people would be like, my best friend is black. Fuck, I can't even say that. I don't have friends. Fuck. This could be very easily fixed by saying that the Deadshot that is playable in the game isn't actually the Arkhamverse Deadshot. He's from another Earth. Jesus fucking Christ. Also, while we're on the topic of the different characters that were DLC and stuff, no, we don't need Lawless, but I did like Slade, like I already established. I thought Slade was fun. Him taking down 5 Brainiacs on his own because he's such fucking badass is just legendary. Although it still just doesn't make sense that the main continuity Justice League couldn't take down a single Brainiac, and yeah, whatever. It's fine. It's whatever. Speaking of the Justice League, I know that the Justice League being playable in the game doesn't make a lot of sense unless it's something sort of reminiscent of the Venom section and the Insomniac Spider-Man 2 game, where it's very limited. And for those who haven't played Suicide Squad, this is really unrealistic because the game, it revolves a lot around gunplay, and the looting system revolves a lot around giving you guns and new grenades and new perks and all of this sort of stuff that is just not really fitting for superheroes. Like, I mean, obviously Batman's whole thing is no killing, no guns, all that sort of stuff. So you can't really just like give him the LMG that Slade would be using. You know, the loot boxes aren't really going to help him as much. Although the game already does have different characters using different guns. Like Harley and King Shark can use miniguns, but you know, Deadshot can't. Which now that I'm thinking about it, is kind of weird. Isn't Deadshot like the gun guy? Isn't he supposed to be a firearm master or whatever? It doesn't matter. I definitely think there could be a world in which there are 2 different loot pools, one that gets activated in the post game when you're playing as the Justice League members, or I don't know exactly how the story would work, whether the Justice League and the Suicide Squad would team up, probably. So then the loot pools would probably just become similar, if not exactly the same. I wonder if at that point maybe they would have tried to do more overlapping things, like maybe, you know, less guns, because it's kind of lame that everybody in the game just uses guns, even if it is realistic. I don't know. I think some more interesting sort of guns would have been nice too. Like I don't know, something more interesting than just shooting bullets. Laser guns, even, maybe. I feel like there probably were some laser guns. I don't know. There were so many guns in this damn game, and none of them were interesting to me because they were, I don't know, they all just shot people, and I was already shooting people well enough. I didn't care. Although I do think it would end up being a corporate necessity for them to make some sort of looter shooter, just for some ungodly reason. I don't know why I feel this way, that I feel like they would just feel the need to make it a looter shooter, but I think they would. And when it comes to like loot for Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman, this is, I mean, we've seen them do stuff like this before in Injustice, and for Batman, I could see it kind of make sense. It doesn't really make sense though, right? Looter shooters in concept don't really make sense. Like, I killed this alien and it dropped this gun that I can use, or this big special boost. So how do you make that make sense? It's whatever. Especially Bruce. Like, what Bruce has, like, he's a fictional character and his gimmick is having all of the money, all of it, period. So like, he doesn't really need to kill aliens to get new things or get materials. I guess aliens are exotic. Maybe they have exotic materials. That could be helpful. As for what kind of loot they would have, I don't know. I haven't played DCUO. Maybe DCUO players have some knowledge on what kind of things superheroes would need, or maybe someone that actually played like Avengers. But I feel like I can't really think of much that, you know, what do you give Superman to make him even more powerful? Actually, wasn't that a part of DC Universe Online's story? It was like Brainiac was giving people superpowers. I don't remember if it was on purpose or on accident. It's been so long since DC Universe came out, and that was the only time I was ever really paying any attention to it whatsoever, really. Okay, so it looks like in DCUO, Lex Luthor created exobytes in the future using Brainiac's collected info on like superpowers and stuff, and he just like went and gave exobytes to a bunch of people on Earth randomly, and that created the player characters, and that's how they got their superpowers and stuff. That's pretty sick. I could see them doing that in this game, where like Lex creates exobytes and you give Batman superpowers and you give Lex superpowers. That'd be kind of weird. I don't know how I feel about Arkham Batman getting freaking superpowers. Maybe it'd just be like, you know, small buffs, stuff like that. Like he'd just get enhanced speed, maybe. But I don't know, they could go crazy and they could be like, this is Kryptonian DNA, this is Speed Force. Like, that'd be insane. No matter how strange the logistics ended up being of including the Justice League as playable characters, I would be far more enticed to play the post game if I could play as these characters that I actually gave a damn about, especially if we got different universe variants of the League and other iconic DC characters. But instead I got Mrs. Freeze, and I got Mrs. Freeze Earth in a post-apocalyptic state that was somehow worse than the main Earth. Like, how, what? The amount of new characters on every Earth were less than the amount of chest hairs that Insomniac Spider-Man has. Imagine if we got to do the whole season fighting Owlman and the Crime Syndicate, or even the Batman Who Laughs and the rest of the dark multiverse Batman variants, like Red Death or the frickin' Doomsday one. I don't remember his name. He's scary, though. He killed Superman that one time. I mean, hell, imagine we cross over with other timelines that already exist rather than making yet another timeline, especially if the new timelines are going to be boring. Like, wow, this one's covered in ice because Mrs. Freeze. Imagine if they ended up in the Injustice timeline for some reason and they also fought Regime Superman or something. I don't know. It'd be cool. I just want to see more Injustice stuff, please. Injustice 3, One NetherRealm, WB, somebody answer my prayers. God. They could just straight up universe hop for a little bit and end up in like the entire history of DC video games with like Superman 64, like the Lego games or something. Somehow we have like a mini side scroller level that's just in the Batman 1989 Nintendo game. I mean, it'd be funny if they went to Gotham Knights. That'd be kind of hysterical, just for more in that universe. They could have seriously beaten the dead horse that is a cameo if this game was even remotely successful. Like, if it made any amount of money, maybe they could have gotten Michael Keaton Batman to come back for a season or even part of a season. That would have been sick. Maybe Grant Gustin showed up as the Flash. I don't know. I like the CW Flash, so, and obviously he's way better than Ezra. So, like, yeah, that'd be cool. I'd love to see him back again, me personally. Maybe all the Snyder fans would like Henry Cavill to come back for a season as Superman. I mean, I would also like that because he like was pretty good at the character. Hell, maybe that David, I can't talk, David Corn Sweat, and he'd come in for a little bit if the game was, alive 2 years after it came out, which shouldn't even be that hard for a modern AAA video game. But oh well, WB doesn't like to listen to its fans, so here we are. Hell, speaking of the Snyderverse, maybe some other folks showed up and gave some more depth to the ending of the Snyder Cut with the post-apocalypse thing with Darkseid instead of Brainiac. That could be fun. Like, they're just like already traveling around the multiverse and like, they're like, hey, let's go help out these guys. They seem like they need help killing a Superman. We've done that before. I don't know. I mean, parademons aren't even too far off from the enemy types that are already in the game. And like, I don't know. Darkseid is just Brainiac with extra steps, right? Like, oh my God, they might actually have to make some new attacks. And I also think that this game possibly, theoretically, possibly, maybe in my dream world could have been a contender to take on Marvel rivals, theoretically, in my dream world, possibly, in Minecraft. So for starters, we already have the idea of different characters with different abilities, which is somewhat similar to Marvel rivals, although we don't necessarily have roles in the game, and we have a much, much, much faster style of gameplay, with the movement being quite absurd and quick, especially in comparison to Rivals, which is quite notoriously slow in comparison to a lot of other shooter games people have played. With the addition of the Justice League and our second loot pool, it could be somewhat similar to Rivals, especially if they were planning on making a PvP mode from the start, which honestly, if I recall from some of the leaks, I think they might have been, but I don't remember. Obviously, it never came out, so it doesn't really matter now. I can theorize and dream about whatever I want. And although the fast movement and the loot obviously don't really compare in any way to Rivals, in fact, they're incredibly different. The only real thing in common that my Dream Suicide Squad and Rivals have are that they're PvP shooter games in some aspects. What does compare is Destiny's Crucible. I don't know if you guys have ever played that. I'm sure that there's somebody watching who hasn't, so I'll explain it right now. Destiny is a looter shooter MMORPG with quite fast movement, some really powerful abilities, and a PvP mode. Yeah, it's like exactly what I'm talking about right now. No, I'll be honest, I'm not the biggest Destiny player. I've played it on and off every once in a while, ever since it came out, basically, but don't really understand the Crucible. Okay, so like obviously, I understand and am now currently explaining to you that Destiny's Crucible mode is the looter shooter MMO's version of a PvP mode. But one of the main things about it that I don't understand is how it always manages to seem somewhat balanced, which is not usually a thing for MMOs. If you've played MMOs, you know that a lot of things end up very bullet spongy and they end up very hard to kill. And even in PvP, sometimes people will have thousands and thousands of times your health. This just is the case in a lot of games that deal with stats numerically. I mean, have you ever played Pokemon and you've tried to kill a level 100 with your level 5 starter Pokemon or something stupid like that? Like, I mean, you know what it's like. It does like nothing to their health bar. It's kind of painful to watch. If you ever played Injustice 2 with its loot system, you would know that that was absurd in that game. There was occasions where you would run into people online in quick play where they would literally be able to 3-shot your first health bar, and then you would try to hit them and it would do nothing. It would be like you're shooting them with Nerf darts, bro. It was bad. But when you were playing ranked in that game, the gear was completely off and every character just had their base game abilities and there was nothing different. So I could see where Suicide Squad PvP, if it was actually good in the stream world, I can't even believe the words that are coming out of my mouth. Holy shit. If Suicide Squad was good, it's crazy. But anyway, I can see them implementing some kind of system where quick play has all of your gear and buffs and alternate sort of things. Maybe ranked doesn't have any of that, but it still has like your skill tree stuff, maybe, so that there's still some alternative gameplay styles and stuff like that. It'd be interesting. I don't know. Do you think Suicide Squad is even remotely salvageable in any way, shape, or form? If they gave it another year, or if we went back in time like 5 years and we were like, hey, do like a lot of this differently, do you think it's remotely possible that this game was salvageable at all? I think there is probably more to be done than what was said in this video. I think a lot more of the story would need to be changed, especially the later half of the story, not just about the Justice League living, but about the way they were killed, about elaborating on them being clones. There's so much that needed to be done there. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to hear if you have any other ideas. I'd love to hear if you disagree with something that I said. I'd love to hear whether or not you think the game is salvageable. Yeah, I think that's all I've got. Leave you with Deathstroke and a goddamn reindeer outfit, because that's what this game left us with. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Do people say share anymore? I don't know. Click off. Please click off. Stop watching me. Don't stop watching me. Watch this video. YouTube thinks you're gonna like it, I think. I don't know. Okay, bye.